you know, quite by surprise and took everybody back because we thought we were safe down here. And it just shows you that you're not safe anywhere necessarily.
We are live today. It is debate day. It has just started. Debate live. Bart Kay versus Dr. Garth Davis.
Yeah. Anywho, sorry about the confusion earlier. We were supposed to meet a couple of hours ago online, and there was a confusion between Eastern Standard Time and Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And
right.
Craziness. What can you do, indeed? So anyway, we're here. We're good to go. Thank you very much for your time, Garth. I do appreciate it. It is a very interesting discussion. And I guess the way I would frame it would be to say to you, number one, thank you for all those references that you sent to me just yesterday about some of the stuff in your video about meat eating. They are all very interesting things to read through, which I have, skimmed through and had a look. And a lot of it was stuff that I was well aware of anyway, obviously, being, a well-published scientist in the area myself. The way I would frame the whole discussion is around sort of starting out by asking you, about the stuff that I'm sure you and I agree on. And that would be things like if I made a statement that said to you, science is a rigorous, disciplined approach to attempting to find an objective truth. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
100%. I think part of the problem that you and I will both see, and I think we've both complained about as I looked over some of your videos, is a lot of people, they find one article, right? And they're like, here's this one article.
Yep.
And because of this article, this is my statement about everything.
Yep.
And I think you and I both know that that's not how science works.
No, it is not. So that's something that we can definitely agree on.
Right.
And
so just want to make sure that everyone can hear all three of us okay. If you can hear me and them, just post a comment and let me know.
I read through the papers that you sent me yesterday. I don't know if it was 10 or 12 papers or whatever it was that you flicked through to me yesterday. Yeah. And along with that was your kind of take on what you think the take-home message is from all of those studies collectively.
Right.
As a well-trained scientist myself, I've spent many hours on editorial boards on many journals, like 3 different journals that I've been on. And that's what we do is we read through these papers when they're sent through, and our job is to poke holes in those papers. So basically, what I did was I looked through those papers you sent me, and I went, okay, there's the hole, within several minutes for most of them.
And I do the same thing all through my channels and stuff. So yeah,
of course you do.
My book is all about poking holes, right?
Yeah. So, basically, there is a fundamental agreement that unfortunately out there in the marketplace, in the real world, there are people who are suggesting that research collectively or indeed individual papers say things that it does not say, and they make claims about the veracity of statements and things that are simply not supported by anything like decent, externally valid, rigorous scientific inferences, I guess.
Right. I think nutritional science is a little different, right? So I'm also a surgeon, and my surgical sciences, it's a lot easier. I do a cut on someone. Does that cut have a positive or negative effect? I can measure that very easily. The problem is we're never going to have a randomized. So you believe in a carnivore diet. I believe in a plant-based diet, right? And by the way, we're not talking veganism. Veganism is an ethic. We're talking about whole food plant-based. So it's impossible for us to take 100 people and follow them for 20 years, 20 of them doing, or 50 of them doing carnivore, 50 of them doing
24.
Absolutely.
All right. So in order for us to do this, we have to make inferences based on what's available. So do you know Walter Longa?
Yeah.
So Walter's got a way that he says that he looks at science, and I wrote in my book almost identical way that I look at science, which is, I want to know epidemiology, and I know you don't like epidemiology. We could talk about that. And epidemiology riddled with problems, but it gives me a general idea.
Sure.
Then I want to know, are there randomized controlled trials? Is there a mechanism of action? When it comes to nutritional sciences, I do want to know about long-lived cultures and stuff, though. That's riddled with all kinds of problems. And then, of course, he calls it understanding of complex systems. And I think that's where you and I that's where we're really going to get into the weeds of understanding
Yeah,
the complex
yeah,
system.
and I think that's kind of the first point of contention, I guess, between yourself and myself, Garth, is that you say we are unable to do these randomized crossover trials. They are not realistic. They are not ethical. There's no way we're ever going to do it. And then you put comma, so therefore we have to rely on lower quality inferences to make these assertions. That's where you and I differ. What I say is, if we don't have the ability, and we don't, I agree with you, if we don't have the ability to do these studies, then we do not have the ability to make the assertion at all. That's what I mean when I say science is a discipline. What we have to say in this case is, we cannot establish this argument. What we can do is say we have a hypothesis. Okay, I have a hypothesis that the indicated diet for the human being throughout the lifespan is carnivorous. You have a hypothesis that a plant-based diet is indicated. Okay, neither one of us is able to establish our case irrefutably or to a standard of evidence that I would call remotely acceptable. And I think that's...
I mean, so the problem is that after you and I are done talking here, I got to go and sit across from a patient and tell them how to eat, right? So I've got a patient that comes in, they go home. So let's look at it this way, because I'd be interested in your take on this. So we don't like epidemiology. I understand. It's correlation, not causation. But let's say that I've got correlation from multiple different studies, multiple different places, huge databases filled with correlation, but they're there. And they're multifactorial regression analysis, so we're trying to control. So we're controlling for common things, smoking, weight, things like that. And they show, let's say, that meat eating is associated with heart disease. Mm-hmm. May not be true, may all be correlation, let's just say it's there. Mm-hmm. Then let's say I start looking at mechanisms of action, and I say, okay, well, maybe it's the saturated fat in meat causing a problem. Maybe it's, I think you and I started talking about that, but we've got to get in the microbiome, and we could start talking about, and I just did that video on atherosclerosis, because this is atherosclerosis.
Yeah, I saw that just now,
Yeah. And so I start getting mechanisms of action. Then let's say I do a randomized controlled trial. Now, albeit not a long trial, but let's say I do a 6-month trial, and I show that a plant-based diet can actually cause regression of atheroma or atherosclerotic disease. Is that not then enough evidence to say that maybe there is something about plant-based diet?
Okay, there's some really interesting points there, and there was a lot of stuff in there all in one sort of...
Now watch what Bart's going to do to worm his way out of that.
It's a lot,
Yeah, okay. So let's start with the last point first, because it's the one that people will remember best. Okay. And the first thing I would say to you is that's the second point that you and I would agree on, and that is that a plant-based diet is absolutely, without question, preferable to the standard American diet in terms of every aspect of health, actually. Right. And yes, there is clear inference, which I would call quite acceptable in my humble opinion, that if you take a person on a standard American or standard Western diet and you say, hey, Charlie Brown, let's put you on this plant-based diet, and they had atherosclerosis, I'm quite happy, I'm quite convinced that atherosclerosis will regress on that plant-based diet. Yes, absolutely. Now, the reason for that, the mechanism behind that, is because the cause of the atherosclerosis in the first instance is a chronic systemic inflammatory response. And that chronic systemic inflammatory response, among other things, sure, but most importantly is down to the diet, the standard Western diet.
Look at the look on Garth Davis's face. Now that's how I was feeling when I was the last person to debate Bart. I was feeling that way, but I didn't express it in my facial features. Let's see what happens here. Because Bart is spinning a big web. Will Garth Davis be trapped?
Standard American diet. And the problem is actually the apart from the processed foods and the junk that's in the standard diet, even if someone's eating what we'll call a clean standard American diet, they are still consuming a diet which has a mixture of macros in it, which contains a significant amount of both fat and carbohydrate.
Who is? Some vegans are. Yeah, too many. And I was trying to teach them not to do that. Anyway, I want to point out for new viewers here that there's too many things going on. I lost it. So let's see what happens here. Oh, yeah, here it is. So I've been posting to Garth Davis here not to do this debate because I've learned some things about Bart here. I warned him, and now here he is. Here he is in my position that I was in 3 weeks ago. I think it's been 4 weeks. And so this is going to be very interesting for me to see if the pattern continues. Do things go the same way? So here we are. This is the first test right here of Garth Davis.
The glycerol fatty acid cycle, otherwise known as the Randle Cycle, in that set of circumstances will tell that person, you're eating for winter, it's fall time because there's lots of carb and fat available in the diet at the moment. That tells that person's body that it's fall. They're getting ready for winter. They'll go into fat storage, and as we both know, fat storage is mediated by inflammation. And so basically what you're doing is
Does Garth think that? Boy. See, I've been thinking in the last few hours here, thinking, has Bart picked another person that he can just easily defeat? So, yeah. He is a bariatric surgeon, which is a red flag. So this probably isn't going to be very good. And Bart will again avoid being defeated. And that's why we should just avoid him. Because we're not defeating him. Garth, he's a bariatric surgeon, so he would probably believe in such crazy stuff. That inflammation is the main cause of weight gain. I can say that maybe it's one of the causes, but there's thousands of causes. When you understand the cause, which is what I teach, thousands can fit under the big cause. Let's see what happens here.
In a chronic inflammatory situation, that will cause weight gain, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and all the sequelae involved in all of that, including most cancers, dementia, and whatever else you want to talk about. So absolutely, if you take someone off that diet and put them on a plant-based diet, what you're basically doing is reducing the fat intake to a point where that glycerol fatty acid cycle thing is not intervening in that way. That alleviates most of that inflammation, therefore the body can heal and regress. Unfortunately, however...
Yes, this is what he said to me here at this point, was that at some point in the future, makes it hard to debate him, can't prove him wrong. In the future, this is what a lot of politicians do. The liberals are going to do this in the future. That's a tactic. He said at some point, I will develop more inflammation on my low inflammation diet. Really low. And he's given me 5 more years, people. So meet me back here in 5 years and we will see. And then 6 years, and 7, and 8. Let's see if Bart's still around. Okay, now let's see where Bart goes here. Let's see if I predict correctly.
5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the track, whatever it is, depending on the individual. The deficiencies of
I love it when I do that. This is live, people. I basically predicted, but not really. That was just a weird coincidence.
Plant-based diet that doesn't have a significant amount of animal product in it will then start to rear their heads, and you'll get secondary problems at that point. So you don't get that on a carnivorous diet, and I guess that was the first.
Oh, pardon me for pausing so much. Turns out this Bart guy is so easy to debunk. He almost debunks himself. We've got no long-term tests on people eating this dumb diet, this carny diet. If we did, we'd probably see some really bad stuff. How can he say that? Okay. Oh, man. And look again at Garth's face. Whoa! What's going on here, man? This is not how it's supposed to go.
My question on the carnivorous diet then would be, if we're thinking about its inflammation, there's a few things I worry about. So we're talking about deficiencies that I see, because we're gonna. Boy, you and I could talk forever. We should probably schedule regular talks.
I think we should.
This is actually very interesting, and I think.
Sorry again, but I got to make one of my great predictions that usually come true. They're not going to be doing this on a regular basis. An hour from right now, Garth's going to say, yeah, this is no good. This is a waste. He's going to say to himself.
I think people would find this interesting, and I want to talk to you longer because this is going to take forever, and I've got other meetings later. So,
and we warned this guy, man. Didn't Dr. Davis do his research on this Bart guy? Didn't he find out he's a raving lunatic? A whole bunch of mental problems, and the guy's twisted. Doesn't he know this? And why is Garth spending his efforts here? Just don't get it.
Maybe we should do this regularly because this is kind of fascinating. Because we're both going to talk about what we think is deficient. And I know in certain plant-based diets, in a certain way they do it. If you look at the EPIC data study, if you look at the vegetarians in that, they had high homocysteine levels, and we know high homocysteine is associated with heart disease, and it was because they were B12 deficient. And so I'm going to say, well, you take a B12 supplement. But if I look at a carnivore diet, my worry with deficiencies is on the fiber side, because part of that inflammation that I'm now seeing is that with a lack of fiber, and there's been several studies that have been published, one in Lancet recently over in Britain, where they were showing. And David, I think I sent you the David et al. Study that was in Nature, where if you're eating a meat-based diet, which is obviously going to have fat, that's going to stimulate cholecystokinin, which is going to stimulate bile acids. The bile acids change the microbiome to a microbiome that doesn't produce as much butyrate. And if you're not producing butyrate, then you're not feeding your enterocytes, and then you get less mucin, and you may get crossover. I think in your article, in your video that you did before on my prior video, you called me out on whether saturated fat causes gap junction. And I went back and looked at that, and I was like, wow, I might have been a little bit wrong about that, because I said it was a directly saturated fat causing gap junction. It may not be that. It may be that the saturated fat was stimulating a microbiome that is low in butyrate, and that causes gap junction. But regardless, what we're seeing is inflammation. So how do you answer that?
Well, let's cover that one. You know who Dr. Paul Saladino is?
I do not.
Okay, he's I think he's a naturopathic doctor, but nonetheless, I think it's called NDH or something like that. Basically, he has been able to put together quite an extensive list of literature. I'm actually talking to Paul on my channel next week, and what he is suggesting is that all the benefits that you will get from fiber, such that they are also, the systemic benefits are also accruing to people who are in ketosis. In other words, the production of ketones provides the exact same benefits at a systemic level to the individual. And what that suggests, I guess, is that yes, absolutely, there are some benefits to fiber intake. there are also some negative or downsides of fiber intake. And there are also the exact same benefits from being in ketosis. And again, ketosis can have its downsides as well. So, it's what I'm saying is there are many different ways to skin a cat. The human organism is, as you and I both know, a fantastic machine that is absolutely incredible in its ability to adapt to what you, the environment in which you place it.
I got in a conversation with Denise Minger. I don't know if you know her, but
I do.
She wrote a big, huge, novel.
Oh man, I don't know if she's still popular. Man, she might be in her late 20s by now. I knew her when she was 23. I just don't understand why she's made a name for herself. Other than her face is really attractive. She's got big cheeks. But man, she's even admitted to being wrong. Oh, but her excuses. Oh, I'm young. I'm just.
Critique of my book.
Yeah, that's how she gets. That's. Why? Why does people give her this credit?
And her and I had a little bit of debate, and we both kind of came up with this. There seems to be some kind of miracle in the.
She even got T. Colin Campbell, I think it was, to write a long article in response to her article. She was 80 years old. She's 23. And it's not just her age. She has no credentials. She's nobody.
Extremes, or maybe it's just a miracle of not eating a standard diet. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that would be interesting to me. So you're saying that ketosis, if you're in keto, so your diet, when you say carnivore diet, you are looking for ketosis then?
Well, it's not the goal, Garth, but it is one of the ramifications of eating a diet which is so very low in carbohydrate, is that obviously there is an amount of ketogenesis that will occur, because obviously it's very, very vital that you don't have the allosteric blockade, I guess, of having too much acetyl coenzyme A floating around if you've got a very high rate of beta oxidation going on. And so therefore, that's why ketone bodies are generated, basically to alleviate that allosteric inhibition and allow the continued action of beta oxidation. And those ketones, the emergent evidence is now suggesting to us, are not just a metabolic byproduct, not just a consequence, but also there may well be, and this is early inference, but there may well be some evidence that there are real benefits involved in actually having ketones floating around. One of which is, or a series of those potential benefits, as Paul Saladino was talking about, is that actually it replaces, and in fact steps in exactly where having a diet high in fiber would leave off if you're not doing that anymore. So that kind of alleviates the so-called need, I guess, for fiber.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting to me, because I'm very interested, obviously, with the microbiome and how ketosis would work with it. The other thing that was kind of interesting to me, because there's been several studies where, and you brought up this with vitamin C, so I wanted to know your take on carnivore and vitamin C, because of course I'm going to say scurvy, et cetera. And I was interested when you said that that's not the case with carnivore. My interest comes from an interesting study. They did a study where they gave people sugar water, and you've made the statement I saw on a different video, and it's true. Everything produces reactive oxygen species, right? Oxygen itself is toxic. So if I give someone sugar water, the cellular respiration will produce reactive oxygen species, and we'll get inflammation.
Yeah.
However, if I give them orange juice, we don't see the inflammation.
Yeah.
Now that is thought to be because of the vitamin C absorption and the flavonols that are in the orange juice itself.
Sure.
So I'm wondering, in a carnivore diet, the other thing I'm worried about in a patient on a carnivore diet is that the lack of flavonols, the lack of phytonutrients, the lack of ability to fight off what is the reactive oxygen species that we're forming. And specifically, I'd be interested in your views on heme iron, because heme iron, the literature is now suggesting, is the oxidizer, in that if you look at it, funny enough, as much as I'm vegan, okay, I am vegan, and that's ethical, it's not, but as much as I go towards that side, I can't argue against the fact that red meat and processed meat, I could show you a million articles against. Chicken and fish, I can't. Okay. And why can't I in chicken and fish? Maybe it's the heme iron. So my question to you then is, are you worried about heme iron? Are you worried about the flavonols and the ability to fight the reactive oxygen species that we know that heme iron causes?
Yeah. Okay. So the short answer to all of that is absolutely not. I'm not worried about it, not one bit. And here, there are a number of sort of things that I could cover very briefly, obviously, and I want to be respectful of time, and I absolutely am keen for you and I to do a segment on both channels, if you like. That's great.
I would love that. I actually think this is
it's really good to sort of ping pong the stuff backwards and forwards. But I mean, here's the deal on oxidation and reactive oxygen species and stuff, as far as I understand it, based on my studies in the area and that kind of thing.
Okay, we're going to pause for some comments. I'm reading the comments coming in. Someone asked when this debate happened. It's happening now. This is nearly live. But I'm a little bit back behind from pausing. I want to thank Miss Kay Jones for the tip. And someone said, Gary is winning the debate. That would be interesting if that happened. Okay. Oh, and someone mentioned Bart's body language was strange. I have not noticed anything. All right, we will continue now.
Okay. Basically, there's an idea that the only place you can get antioxidants from is your diet, which is not correct. Actually, the most powerful way that you can actually observe and find and get an antioxidant effect in the human body is by electrically grounding it to the earth.
Okay.
That sorts it out quicker than anything, dietarily speaking, possible. When you're talking about the absorption of antioxidant nutrients in isolation in sort of controlled studies, you can find that there's good absorption. You can find that there's good antioxidant effect if you want to find that by designing your study to make sure that occurs. As soon as you actually feed someone a diet that is consisting of a fair amount of different plants and plant-based foods, you'll find the anti-nutrients are going to kick in and interfere with that. Antioxidants through the diet is not the most effective way of getting them. The most effective way by far is by electrically grounding yourself to the earth. And I can probably send through a number of studies on that to you if you like, Garth, where you can have a look at that and say, oh Jesus, even for example,
I know the body can create its own, like glutathione, for instance, is a fantastic antioxidant. We could create that through. Right. But I'm still just churning back through my mind of these studies where when we add an antioxidant to, for instance, there was a study where they gave people water, orange juice, or milk. The milk shot IL-1 through the roof and several other things. Isn't that concerning? Aren't you concerned about that when you eat that? Now, again, these people...
Well, I don't consume milk, Garth. I don't consume milk at all. No, not at all. Okay. I don't think there's any place on the human diet for milk once you've been weaned off mother's milk.
Wow, I didn't realize that was part of it too. So why not?
For me personally, well, basically, when you look at it, the milk of an animal that's not even us, after we've been weaned off milk, it doesn't make any sense. There's no. It doesn't
make sense to me, but I would have thought.
Why would anybody? Well, a lot of carnivores do consume dairy and enjoy dairy, and they actually swear by raw dairy as well, which I would never do. because to me that would be, risky beyond risky, actually. In the same way that a lot of people are talking about, raw carnivore, which again I would never do.
So going back to it, because when you said that you could get vitamin C, tell me.
Well, that was interesting. I never heard that from Bart before. He would not eat his diet raw, meaning in its natural state. Well, that debunks the diet right there for him. Why not? Why can't you do it raw?
Tell me about your vitamin C.
Okay, right. Yeah, look, the vitamin C thing is also quite simple. The RDIs for vitamin C are based on a lot of guesswork, actually. The quality of the science behind them is actually very, very poor. And in fact, they're based on someone who is eating a standard Western or a standard American diet. Now, someone like that is going to have a high requirement for vitamin C. They're going to have a lot of oxidative stress because of their diet. Someone on a plant-based diet is also going to have a very high level of oxidative stress for the same reason. And that reason is around deuterium, basically, and around its effect on mitochondrial function, specifically the H0, H1 ATPase in the mitochondria. Anything that is going to interfere with mitochondrial function is going to reduce your redox capacity in your cells. That is going to cause oxidative stress, and that's what you get when you eat a lot of plant matter because of the high level of deuterium therein, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the deuterium, but I've always looked at that kind of. I agree with the mitochondrial. The one thing we're seeing in people is mitochondrial inflexibility. That's the kind of the term that's being used a lot. It seems to be more. You mentioned Randle effect, because I've always been big on the Randle effect and studying it. Of course, it works for both of us, which is interesting. But my kind of read on the Randle effect and the revisitation of the Randle effect, because the Randle effect. I mean, Randle did all his studies in diaphragm and heart muscle.
Yeah.
It doesn't work with white muscle and things like that, which does have a lot of metabolic capacity. But one thing, it seems that the metabolic problem is when we're feeding our bodies tons of fat and sugar at the same time.
Correct. That's exactly what I've been saying all along.
Right. So if we're not doing that, if we're not overfeeding our
Listen up, vegans. I'm one of the few people who's been saying that.
Our cell in that way. So in a plant-based diet, most plant-based diets.
So what I'm saying is, get off the fat. You can eat fat, but don't treat it like something that you need to be careful you get enough of, or make sure you have enough fat. No, make sure you don't have a lot of fat. You shouldn't be eating high-fat foods every day.
Are low in fat, higher in carb and fiber. I don't know that we're getting that effect. Now, I don't know much on the other stuff that you were talking about, but certainly on that side, I don't know.
Yeah.
So problem.
Again, that's something that we agree on, Garth, and that is if you mix carb and fat together in your diet, you're asking for trouble. And it's because of the Randle effect, the Randle cycle. Okay, what that will do is tell your body, store fat, be inflamed, don't, slows down your mitochondria, reduces your.
There you go, people. You heard it. You heard it directly from Bart. Don't put fat with your carbs. And Frank says that you hardly find any fat in the plant kingdom. So right there tells you how you should be eating. Nature gives us carbohydrates. Except for squirrels, it gives some fats to them, but we're not squirrels. We don't have the ability to crack nuts or coconuts or chase down an animal.
your redox potential in your cells, increases your oxidative distress levels, increases your need for vitamin C and and other sort of antioxidants of that nature as well. Not a good thing. Plant-based diet, absolutely preferable to the standard Western diet in that respect, because you're knocking one of those two things out. The problem is the mixture of those two things, not either one of them in isolation. So to say fat is bad, okay, is just as wrong as to say, carbs are bad.
No, because of what I just said, that Frank said. What you see in nature is nature giving us carbohydrates. And a carb-based diet has a track record. It's been proven over millennia, the entire human history, entire history of Earth. Well, high-fat diets, you've developed problems from those. It's a second-hand diet. When you're eating animals that ate the carb plants, you're getting all your nutrients and calories from a second-hand source. That can only be worse. It cannot be better.
It's the combination of fats and carbs together. That's the problem. So taking that argument aside, what then the most indicated and sensible thing to do is to have a diet which predominates in one of those macros,
Here we go,
but not the other one. So your two choices obviously are highly carb-based diet or highly fat-based diet. From there, you then you draw a line down the page and say, okay, fats, carbohydrates, pros and cons. And once you've done that, what you're going to find is fat wins every single day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Here comes, after saying a whole bunch of true stuff, he is now going to pack. Now I'm going to end it at the punchline, the big lie. And it looks like Garth Davis is ready for it. So I'll rewind a little bit so we can hear all of this BS.
Highly carb-based diet or highly fat-based diet. From there, you then you draw a line down the page and say, okay, fats, carbohydrates, pros and cons. And once you've done that, what you're going to find is fat wins every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. Okay.
Of course,
you'll disagree with me, of course.
Disagree.
Okay, I missed something here. Or is Bart just not focused? He's got a little brain fog there? Did he miss the subject of his sentence there?
Pros and cons. And once you've done that, what you're going to find is fat wins every...
Oh, okay. He's just talking really fast. He just said, fat wins. Fail, Bart. Fail. You see, this is what I didn't do in my debate with him. I didn't call him out, which was not good. But the reason I didn't do that is because Bart would have started getting upset. And then things would just fall apart after that. I let the audience realize it for themselves. I realized that'll work fine. I hope so. And then there's my follow-up videos, which were rocking. Got to check those out after this.
Single day of the week and twice on Sundays.
That's
okay.
Of
course,
you'll disagree with me, of course.
Disagree based on
of course you'll disagree with me. But the fact of the matter is when you're looking at...
Any sensible person would disagree. And I showed in a recent video a couple days ago, talking with a low carber. And they're just off. They are unhinged. They're brainwashed. They don't think normally. And there's too many of those people around.
Well-designed, well-powered studies of mechanistic data, not associative data, not epidemiology or any of that kind of nonsense, what you find is that there are clear, obvious mechanisms, and there are pros and cons for both. I'm not saying that fats are blameless. However,
yeah, I mean,
the stuff that fats have been blamed for, it's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
It's not. It's like it's more, So I can show you a randomized control trial showing that saturated fat intake is associated with a change of microbiome. I could show you a randomized control trial.
Okay, I got to stop again. I got something to say. So Bart agrees, he acknowledges that the big problem is putting fat and carbs together. So you have to keep them separate. You have to eat one. Now that's easy to do. It's the easiest diet in the world. Look at that. It fits perfectly. You pick it up off the ground, which is the best way to go, or you pick it off a tree. And you have something that's naturally carb-based, very low in fat, but has a little bit of it. Everything has a little bit of fat. That's all you need. But if you're eating a animal-based diet, you cannot separate carbs and fat. This is something that no one talks about. Not even vegans bring this up. When a true carnivorous animal eats an animal, it is eating carbohydrates, not just fat and protein. There's carbs in the muscle. It's called glycogen. No one brings that up. You don't have much glycogen in the meat you buy from stores because those animals never moved. Their muscles didn't store glycogen, didn't need it. That's unnatural. Now, true carnivores can eat like that, and they can get away with that. But human beings, they have a problem. Bart acknowledges that a problem occurs when you eat fat and carbs together. The carnivore diet is unnatural for human beings. Debunked.
Trial showing you that saturated fat creates more DNA changes. Now we're doing these DNA changes in the stool where you can actually see the enterocytes with their change in DNA. So, or I could do a randomized control trial showing you that a plant-based diet causes regression of PSA. Okay, so there's all these trials. I don't have and haven't seen the carnivore trials of those, and so that would be the challenge.
Right. So the reason for that, of course, Garth, is that while the carnivore diet is not a new thing, humans have been doing
it is a new thing. It was just made up last June. This is just a partial joke. No, the cavemen, again, they were eating meat because they were eating whatever they could get. They were living in an unnatural, non-indigenous environment for human beings. And so they had to, they didn't have enough food. They had to eat whatever they could get. That's the reason they ate meat. And that's also the reason they ate anything, and any plants they could find. And yes, there were plants. Well, how do you think animals survived? How do you think these foods survived? The Ice Age, they were around. Maybe not exactly like this. It's just another tactic they use.
Doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. It's a new thing in modern society. We haven't had time to get the studies together yet.
Yeah,
we're behind the eight.
When you go to eat your food, because people ask me this all the time. So my problems with let me go over my problems with meat real quick. The mechanistic things, and we can address them all. Yep. It's heme iron. It's the effect on IGF-1. It's the effect on mTOR.
Yep.
It's the N-nitrosamines. and it's the heterocyclicoamines. Okay, so those are my big things with me.
Okay.
And I don't see that changing. Okay, well, you know what? I'm getting on my time. Let's do. How could we set up a next talk? How should we do this?
We'll
do
just
want to come up with.
Flick an email through. We'll sort out a time. I'm probably much more flexible time-wise than you are. I took
a new job and I'm getting killed. Well, another thing we would agree with is that Western medicine isn't always the best thing, and that we need to address diet to these
absolutely,
huge hospitals I work at. And so I took a new job to do that, and I'm slammed. But why don't we do this? Because I do have to go. Those are my things. I would love for you to share over emails. Let's kind of come up with a structure. So maybe we could do a regular discussion of this.
Sure.
I'm enjoying this, and I think the listeners will enjoy it.
Yeah, I think they will too. And I think that it's, time that people saw the side of me where we can sit down and have a professional discussion. There has been a lot of grandstanding, and it's about getting views. It's about getting clicks on YouTube. Let's be honest about it. Why do I do that? Because it works its ass off. Frankly, people love it.
You know what, though? I think, people do love it, right? And your guys love that. And my guys would love for me to get on here and tell you you're an asshole. And
of course they would.
But you know what? That's not. I think what people really want is this. They want to hear us discuss these different things. And I think, of course, we're always going to come back to stop eating the junk food.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely agreed on that. Let's talk TMAO. Let's talk new 5GC. Let's talk heterocyclic-amines and polycyclic amines, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about antioxidant status. Let's talk about heme iron. Absolutely. Let's do a series of discussions. Yeah. You flick me an email. I'll respond. We'll get it together. We might even work out what time it is first.
Okay, let's do that.
Sorry about that.
Okay. That's okay. No problem.
Stuff happens.
All right, we'll work it out. I appreciate it, Bart. And let's keep it going. It's interesting.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye. See you later.
Looks like that's the end. Just wondering about something here. So I'll read some comments if you want to post your reaction to this. It was not too much of a debate, was it? Which is strange. Yeah, this is interesting. So this is Bart's third encounter with a vegan. And notice the first one, even the first one, Bart didn't think it was a debate. He didn't think it was going to be a debate. It ended up being one, but he still says it wasn't a debate. And he didn't want to call my debate a debate either. And this one wasn't a debate either, see? It's like he doesn't want to debate a vegan. So, isn't that interesting? It still bugs me that he has successfully got a bunch of people to talk with him, even though he just started on YouTube. It's a small channel, and all these people. It's like the YouTube world wants to make him popular instead of me. Been here many years, entertaining people, giving people some actual information they can use in their real life. You can't use any of that. YouTube is pretty sad. Here is Garth Davis' website. Now, there's one thing I missed here. I should have subscribed to his channel and watched on his channel, but I see that he didn't live stream that debate. So only Bart did, so. Yeah, see, Garth wasn't even thinking about live streaming it on his channel to give people an alternative, but to watch Bart's video. It's another red flag. Okay. What the heck is this crap? What is this? Oh.
I'm in New Zealand, Garth. I'm at the very top of the South Island of New Zealand, in a city called Nelson.
I'm sorry about all the stuff going on up there.
Yeah, it was shocking. I mean,
Okay, I've got to leave a comment here. It just ended. There's already 61 comments. Jeez. This is sad. Leave your comments, people. Got more. I'm gonna keep going for a few minutes here. More to say. So many. Let's see, Bart help me. To debunk the carny diet. Alright. So I just left a comment there. Let's see what Bart's viewers say as we go deeper into this tragedy. Oh yeah, what about my predictions? I was asking last night, will this be a tragedy? Not in the way I thought, because it was hardly a debate. They didn't really clash. The tragedy was in that Bart now has a regular collaborator, and it's a vegan. Let's see. Here's someone who said, how do you avoid gluconeogenesis just eating meat? Right. Well, by eating mostly just the fatty parts. Don't eat too much of the muscle and the protein parts. See, there's so many rules to get this diet right. Unnatural rules. Because if you eat too much protein, the excess protein the body will take that and create glycogen, glucose, from the protein. Someone said, that was great. Thank you, Dr. Davis, for helping us out unwittingly in our movement of the meat militia taking over. First taking over the vegan community on YouTube, then taking over all of YouTube, then all of the internet, and from there, you know, the world. He says, and thanks, Bart. One grows tired of all the drama lately. Yeah. Thanks once again. At least he showed up and wants more. Weird. Let me see. Bart studies nutrition. Doctors get 4 hours or so of study in medical school. So, well, he probably has done some extracurricular studying. Bart Kay is like Moby's evil carnivorous doppelganger. Yeah, Moby the singer. He's bald. Yep. That's very interesting. It's like some of them don't even realize they're evil. Yeah, look. Someone says, I have new respect for Dr. Garth, even if I don't agree with his position. And then went on to say, we all just want the truth. No, we don't. People don't want the truth. It's very clear that they don't. I'm going to write that. And that's the reason I'm unpopular and Bart is popular. Yeah. That's who we want. Wow. Can't read that. We don't have a winter mechanism. We are not bears. We originated from the tropics. Ooh. And only adapted to colder climates through evolution. Jackets. Clearly not ideal for humans. But where did this conversation go? What did we learn? Great job, Bart. It went exactly as I expected. You know exactly what you are talking about. Brilliant. One. It's funny if you watched my follow-up videos about Bart. They're really destructive. It got to the point where I'm starting to feel sorry for Bart. He is totally lost in his science dogma. Once you clean up the mess with the science, next will come the ethics, which I would love to help with. I'm extremely knowledgeable in the ethics space on personal experience. Bart avoids ethics for obvious reasons. Let's see, halfway through, and Garth hasn't puked out any of his Save the Earth and Save the Animals BS. Because he knows not to here. Nicely done, Bart. I just finished it. Must say I'm surprised. No shouting. Yeah. What went wrong here? This is the first time Bart's had a debate like this. It's like he was collabing with another carnivore. That's what's really tripping me up here. It's hard to believe that guy was vegan. Maybe, I don't know him, but this is very fishy. Okay, very calm and scientific. Thanks for sharing this information. Optimal diet, I feel, is animal-based with little plants added because plants are medicine and not food. The plant kingdom is the food that has fueled the animal kingdom. There's no other way it could work. And that's actually too crazy for me to reply to that message, because that person's completely lost for good. Those are Bart's fans. Yeah, someone here said Garth looks like a sad dumpling. I noticed he doesn't look very good. And this reminds me to point out that I just realized something. They got both he did what I wanted to do and no one else does. Got both of them on the screen at once. So Google Hangouts can do that, but I never could find out anything about that. But Hangouts, I had a problem with that anyway. Anyway, take a look at both of those guys. Take a look. Both those guys there. Now look at me. I am older than both of them. Okay. Some more comments. Bart's here. Is this the guy that said you'd get scurvy on the carnivore diet? Yes. Casey did. He was getting there until he had some fruit. Bart replied to that, and it says it was an hour ago. So maybe there was some kind of delay here. Oh, maybe this wasn't live, but it doesn't matter. Bart says, yes, we'll get to that in detail in our next online chat. I will reply to this. Then ate some fruit. Saved his life. You were saying polyunsaturated oils were no good. Did I misunderstand something? Because eggs have more mono than saturated fat. Bart replied, if your diet predominates in mono, even more so if it's poly, then you're asking for trouble. Someone said, this is going to be good. Yeah, I thought so too. Well, I was pretty good. Okay, that's it. Let's get out of there. I'll now read some of my comments. Here we go. A lot of people talking about vegetable police for some reason in my comments. Someone said I need to do a last destruction of him. And that is planned. About now that he's back in Canada. Yes, I'm looking at the big picture, and I have something planned, and it's something that I got info that nobody knows. No one. And the way I found out, I'm sure that no one knows. And more stuff. Not that I want to return to him. I don't like looking at his face, but I got stuff. Let's see. This channel is all fruit all the time. Yeah, it's just laying around. I don't have rice laying around. The potatoes are in the kitchen. Let's see. Sorry for Bart. I feel sorry for Bart, yes. Based on your grasp of science, Gary? No, my grasp of reality. The guy's off the deep end, Donner, and do you even not realize that? Bart didn't get frustrated because Gary wasn't asking any questions. Oh, right. Yeah. Bart could not hear me. No, Bart didn't do... Garth didn't really do much. LOL. No, Gary. Trish knows what she's talking about. Oh. Do I have to say it again? The reason animals exist is because of the plant kingdom. It fuels the entire plant kingdom. Is there someone who doesn't understand that? The logic there. You just live streamed a live stream. Yep, and I've done that before. Thought that was against the rules. I never heard that. Let's see. Gonna remove a comment. I rarely do that. That comment was worthless. Yes, why hasn't this channel taken off, Gary? Could it be the content? Yes, veganism's out. And it's flooded too. Too many vegans. Endless amount. You got to quit veganism. That's where it's at. then you're going to get noticed. A lot of comments here. Oh, okay. I have to go back here. There's some stuff in here. Went vegan for health. Me too. Went back to carnism for the flavor. That I don't get. You gotta put some effort into flavoring your food. People do it with meat. They put flavor on meat. The way he flip-flopped to it. Let's put that. Oh, that's Casey. Okay. I can't agree that full ketosis comes on if you're eating low starch diet. It's just got to be under 30 grams of carbs a day. Then you go into ketosis. So here's senior scientist though. So shut the F up, Charlie Brown. He asked who's winning. Looks like nobody won. But I wasn't really paying attention to all of it. I may have won because none of them did. Let's see. Okay. Oh, so Michelle Lowe is in here? I was wondering. I'm looking. No? All right. The dude on the left needs to stop bouncing around. Don't you know Bart when you see him? Oh, well, are you talking about me? I was bouncing. I was exercising. Dr. Davis' solution to obesity is cutting 90% of your stomach out. Yep. 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 Well, it makes too many bumps on the mic. Well, all fruit all the time. leads to fatty liver. No, because fructose. Because fructose can only be processed in the liver. So what? But I don't have fatty liver. No fruitarian gets fatty liver. Yes. Yep, carbohydrates. They're in every plant food and even in meat. Nothing wrong with carbs, which is sugar. So the only thing wrong with sugar is refining. Gary, carbs are nature's gifts. Aren't animals part of nature? No, vegans don't always proud for meat substitutes. They're just used to eating meat because we're all brought up in the meat matrix. And so people they don't really want to change. Is Doug Graham still 80-10-10? He has disappeared from YouTube, it seems. I don't check in on him much. But I've been meaning to. I would assume so. He's kind of like me, and he's one of those people I can spot as being the real deal, who aren't going to quit. No mentions of him later than 6 years ago. It couldn't have been that long. Someone's actually saying there's 0 carbs in steak. Not in a wild steak. Glycogen. Just don't get it. Don't get these people. What? When you talk about the history of the human diet, it varies a lot because of the foods available in certain locations, right? And they just don't want to acknowledge that. They overly simplify it. Like Frank's video today. Didn't want to even watch that. I don't watch him at all. He's a joke. I plan to make a video about environment and winter and that kind of thing. But I always have other things to do. When you talk about that's why we need to warm the globe. Oh, forget that. Why the orange? So, here's this new person who's one of the crazy people who said that this orange survived because it was cultivated by Monsanto. 100,000 years ago? I didn't know Monsanto was around that long ago. They do go back to at least the 70s, probably 60s. Dr. Davis is looking silly associating with Bart, and his crazy grounding is the best antioxidant mechanisms and speculations. What? Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Someone slightly vegan says they both look like quacks. Maybe that explains why they're together. Yeah, anybody who does weight loss surgery is kind of a quack. He has the Okay, that's it for the comments. So, we just had a sort of a debate between Bart and the vegan doctor. It only lasted about 40 minutes, and they didn't really debate much. It looks like they're just both trying to get attention. Okay. Might as well wrap it up now. Oh, and tomorrow I'm back live, I suppose. For my Saturday live stream about the truth about food and how people eat and how they should eat, and just how to recognize what's right and wrong. Yep. Okay. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up this video, and you should probably share this. There was some good stuff in there. It was pretty good while I was going. Yeah. Okay. Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.